Chapter 1. What if the world is just a story you're telling yourself in the dark? There is a secret that every child knows, and that every adult has been taught to forget. It is the secret of the storyteller, the one who, in the absolute blackness behind their own eyelids, can conjure empires and oceans, heroes and heartbreak, from the silent, raw material of nothing at all. Tonight, I want you to consider a possibility, not as a dry philosophical argument, but as a quiet, personal invitation. What if the magnificent, solid, stubborn world you navigate each day, the weight of the coffee cup in your hand, the sound of the wind against the window, the memory of a loved one's face, what if all of it is just that? A story. A profound, consistent, breathtakingly detailed story that you are telling yourself in the dark. To find the origin of this thought, we must travel, not on a map, but in a mood. Picture a winter in the 17th century in the Low Countries. The cold is not the crisp, clean cold of a modern city, but a deep, seeping damp that clings to the stone walls of a small, stove-heated room. In this room sits a man who has removed himself from the noise of the world by joining a mercenary army. But his battle is not with pikes and muskets. It is with the very architecture of reality itself. His name is René Descartes, and he is profoundly, dangerously alone with his thoughts. He is the ghost in his own life, questioning everything. And he begins his campaign not by adding new knowledge, but by systematically destroying the old. He decides to pretend, just for a while, that everything he has ever been told, everything his senses have ever reported to him, is a magnificent and deliberate deception. Feel the weight of that decision. It takes a certain kind of courage, or a certain kind of exhaustion, to willingly unspool the tapestry of your own reality. He looks at the fire in his stove and asks, "Can I trust that it is truly there?" He looks at his own hands, resting on his writing desk, and whispers, "Are these even mine?" He considers the most fundamental truths, that the sky is blue, that the earth is firm, that 2 + 2 is 4, and he applies the solvent of doubt. What if a powerful, unseen demon of the utmost cunning and power has been employed to deceive him, to fabricate a complete fiction of a world, complete with sensory input, memories, and even the seeming certainty of mathematics? This is not a paranoid fantasy. It is a tool, the most radical thought experiment ever conceived. He is burning down the village of his own mind to see if anything remains standing in the ashes. And in that absolute silence, after the last echo of doubt has faded, he finds it. A single, unshakable point of certainty. If the demon is deceiving him, then he must exist to be deceived. The very act of thinking, of doubting, of fearing, of wondering, proves his own existence. Cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. This is not a triumphant declaration shouted from a rooftop. In the context of that quiet room, it is a fragile, breathless confession. The one solid stone he has found in a swirling mist. Everything else, the room, the stove, the winter, his own body, is still part of the story, still potentially part of the demon's grand deception. But the thinker, the experiencer, the I that is hearing this story, that is real. That is the first and most fundamental truth. Now, bring this home, to your own dark room, to the feeling of the sheets against your skin, the faint sound of the house settling, the faint glow of a street lamp through the curtain. What if you applied the same gentle doubt, not with fear, but with a sense of wonder? The weight of the blanket. Is it a fact, or is it a sensation interpreted by your mind? The memory you replayed today, the conversation that left a knot in your stomach, Is it an objective event? Or is it a narrative you have edited, scored, and produced in the private theater of yourself? This is not to say the world is an illusion. It is to say that your experience of the world is a story. A story authored by you based on sensory data, filtered through a lifetime of beliefs, traumas, and hopes. The coffee cup is real, but its warmth, its comfort, its meaning, that is your creation. You are the silent, invisible storyteller in the center of your own magnificent, unfolding epic. And if that is true, what power it gives you. The difficult meeting tomorrow, the lingering worry, the unresolved tension, it is all part of the narrative. And while you may not be able to change the external events, you hold the ultimate authority over the tone, the emphasis, the meaning you assign to them. You are not a passive audience member in the cinema of your life, helplessly watching the drama unfold. You are in the writer's room. You are the ghost at the center of the machine, weaving reality from the raw static of existence. So, as you feel sleep reaching for you tonight, feel the edges of that story soften. Let the solid world become a little more like a dream, because it is in that soft, malleable space that you remember your true role, not as a victim of your circumstances, but as the quiet, eternal storyteller whispering a universe into being in the dark. And as that thought settles, as you feel the gentle weight of your own role as the author, a new, more intimate question begins to form in the stillness. If you are the storyteller, the ghost in the machine, then who or what is the you that is listening? Chapter 2. Is the ghost in the machine the only thing that's real? So we have found our storyteller, the I, the thinking thing that remains when the world is stripped away. But what is this ghost, this silent witness that you call yourself? It has no weight, no color, no location. You cannot point to it in an X-ray. You cannot hold it in your hand. It is the one thing in all of existence you are most certain of, and yet it is the most elusive. Descartes, in his quiet room, pressed further. He had his foundation stone, his I am. But what was the nature of this I? He looked inward, and he made a discovery that would cleave the world in two for centuries to come. He realized that this thinking thing, this ghost of himself, was fundamentally different from everything else. It was a substance whose entire essence was thought. And the body was a machine, a magnificent hydraulic clockwork machine made of extended substance, of matter. This was the birth of the ghost in the machine, the mind, a non-physical thinking essence, and the body, a physical, unthinking automaton. Imagine the loneliness of that realization. He saw his own body not as him, but as a vessel, a complex, fleshy puppet through which his ghostly self interacted with the world. The pain in his leg, the warmth of the stove, the taste of bread. These were not direct experiences of the world, but signals. The machine was reporting data to the ghost. The body was a ship, and the mind was its solitary captain, locked in the pilot house, interpreting the needles on the dials and the images on the screens. This solves one profound mystery while creating another. It preserves the purity and immortality of the soul, the thinking thing, from the decay and mechanics of the body. But it creates the problem of how they interact. How does a thought which has no mass or energy, a mere whisper of intention from the ghost, cause the machine to raise an arm? How does a physical event in the machine, a stubbed toe, a rush of chemicals we call emotion, become a feeling, a color, a texture in the mind of the ghost? Descartes, ever the rationalist, proposed they met in the pineal gland, a tiny pine-cone-shaped structure in the center of the brain. A quaint idea now, but feel the poetry of it. He was searching for a single sacred point of contact, a translator between two entirely different kingdoms of reality. Now feel this in your own life. Have you ever been so lost in a thought, a memory, a piece of music, that you completely forgot you had a body? The room grew cold, time ceased to exist, and you were pure awareness, a floating point of consciousness. And then a cramp in your leg, a pang of hunger, violently pulled you back into the machine. That is the daily dance of the ghost and the machine. The frustration of trying to think clearly when you are tired or ill. The machine is low on power, and the ghost's signals are fuzzy. The profound comfort of a warm bath after a long day. The ghost receiving a benevolent, soothing report from the machine's sensors. Your deepest loves, your most cherished connections, are they not a constant, hopeful attempt by your ghost to connect with another ghost through the imperfect, clumsy medium of two machines? A touch, a look, a word, all just signals trying to bridge an impossible gap. This is the deep, melancholic beauty of the Cartesian split. It explains the fundamental loneliness of the human condition. You are, in a very real sense, a prisoner in your own body, an eternal observer peering out from behind your own eyes. And yet, it is also the source of our greatest dignity. Your body will age, it will change, it will one day cease to function, the machine will wear out. But the ghost, the thinker, the feeler, the you that is listening to this voice right now, that is not made of parts that can break down, that is not subject to the same laws of decay. It is of a different order of reality entirely. So, when you feel the aches of the day, when you see the lines on your face in the mirror, you can remember, you are not the machine. You are the ghost that inhabits it. You are the silent, watching, eternal thing that gives it life. And as you drift towards sleep, you can feel that ghost loosening its ties to the machine. The signals from your fingers, your toes, are growing faint, turning into static. The pilot is leaving the bridge, retreating into the pure, unbounded world of thought and dream, where the machine, for a few precious hours, no longer imposes its limits. And in that retreat, as the ghost slips its moorings and the hum of the machine fades to a whisper, a final question emerges from the profound silence. If I am just a ghost and the world is just a story, who or what wrote the laws of this dream? Is there a larger mind, a greater storyteller, waiting in the quiet? Chapter 3. What does the soul hear when the universe falls silent? We have journeyed to the very center of the self, to the lonely ghost in the machine. But a ghost in an empty castle is one thing. A ghost in a castle that seems to have been designed, built, and filled with intricate mathematical beauty, that is something else entirely. This was Descartes' final and greatest leap, from the intimacy of the I to the infinity of God. And he did not find it in a church or in a scripture, but in the same quiet room, with the same tool he had used to burn everything down, the power of his own thought. He looked inward at his own mind, and he found an idea of a perfect, infinite, eternal, all-powerful being. And he asked himself a simple, devastating question. Where could this idea have come from? Think of the ideas you have. An idea of a horse. You have seen horses, or parts of horses, and you can combine them. An idea of a golden mountain. You have seen gold. You have seen mountains. You are a finite, imperfect being, and so all your ideas are, in some way, limited, flawed, and constructed from your experience. But the idea of perfection? The idea of infinity? You, a finite creature, could no more create the idea of the infinite than a mason could create the idea of a symphony. It is the wrong kind of cause for that kind of effect. A stone can cause a ripple in a pond, but it cannot cause the idea of justice. A finite mind can have finite ideas, but it cannot, from its own resources, conjure the idea of the infinite. Therefore, he reasoned, the idea of a perfect infinite God must have been placed in him by a being that itself is perfect and infinite, the mark of the craftsman stamped upon his work, the storyteller leaving his signature in the mind of the story's protagonist. This is not the God of booming voices and burning bushes. This is the God of philosophers, the God of pure reason, the foundational axiom, the necessary being that guarantees that the story you are telling yourself has an author, and that the author is not a malicious demon, but a benevolent, truthful mathematician. Because if God is perfect, he is not a deceiver. The world, therefore, the world of extension and mathematics that science can study, can be trusted. The laws of physics are real because a truthful God established them. Your clear and distinct perceptions, when carefully reasoned, can lead you to truth. The silent, sleeping universe outside your window is not a chaotic void. It is a grand, orderly, mathematical thought in the mind of God. And your own mind, your ghost, is a tiny, finite spark of that same infinite thinking substance. So, what does the soul hear when the universe falls silent? It hears the echo of its own origin. In the spaces between your thoughts, in the calm you feel just before sleep, when the noise of the day and the clamor of your own narrative finally stills, that is when you can almost hear it, the hum of the great mechanism, the silent mathematical music of a reality built on reason and order. It is the peace that comes from knowing you are not alone in the castle. The castle itself is intelligent. It has a purpose, a design, your own hunger for truth, for beauty, for something more than the mechanical ticking of the machine. That hunger itself is a clue. It is the ghost remembering its home. As you lie here now, at the very edge of wakefulness, you can let go of the need to be the sole author. You can rest into the role of a co-creator, a character who has been given the sublime gift of free will within a story that is far grander than you can comprehend. The worries that cling to you, the knots of anxiety about tomorrow, the weight of a past you cannot change. See them for what they are. They are plot points in your personal narrative, but they are not the whole story. The greater story is written in constellations and in atoms, in the logic of a snowflake and the orbit of a planet, all held in the mind of a silent, truthful, infinite storyteller. And your small, quiet, certain I, your ghost, is known to him. It was from him that you received the idea of the infinite in the first place. So let go. Surrender the narrative. Let the weight of authorship drift away from you as sleep drifts over you. You are not just a ghost in a machine. You are a thought in the mind of God, listening for the whisper of the next beautiful, truthful line. And in that knowing, there is a peace that passes all understanding, a deep, silent, and eternal rest. Chapter 4. What if your deepest fear is the only proof that you are free? Imagine for a moment the kind of silence that isn't an absence of sound, but a presence. The silence of a room after a confession has been made. The silence of a snow-covered street at 3 in the morning where the world feels held in suspension. It is in this quality of silence that we can begin, not with a statement, but with a dismantling. And there is a certain fear in that, a vertigo. What if the very thing that terrifies you, that feeling of being utterly, cosmically alone in your perceptions, is not a cage, but a key? What if the ghost in the machine, the one we call you, is only truly born the moment it realizes it might be the only thing floating in the void? Let us step into that void, not a dramatic, star-filled cosmos, but a smaller, more intimate one, a study in the 17th century. The air is cold and smells of beeswax and old paper. A single candle fights back the pressing dark, its flame the only thing moving, casting long, dancing shadows that look like giants and ghosts on the walls. And in the center of this room, a man, René Descartes. He is not a statue of a philosopher. He is a man, wrapped in a heavy robe, his face lined with the fatigue of thought. He is engaged in the most radical act a thinking mind can undertake. He is not building an argument. He is setting his world on fire. He picks up his beliefs, one by one. The solidity of this table beneath his hands, is it truly solid, or merely a pattern of tiny swirling atoms? Or perhaps just a sensation delivered by nerves he cannot see? The sound of the wind outside, moaning in the eaves. Is it wind? Or is it the sound of his own blood in his ears, misinterpreted? He looks at the candle flame. He knows it is hot. But what is heat? Is it a quality of the flame itself? Or is it merely a message sent from his skin to his mind? A message that could, in theory, be faked? He takes it further, as you might in the deep watches of the night, when your own certainties feel thin. What if everything he sees, touches, hears, is a fabrication, a deliberate deception? What if a powerful, cunning demon, an evil genius of limitless power and malice, has dedicated its entire existence to constructing a perfect, seamless illusion just for him, a phantom world populated by phantom people, felt with phantom senses? This is not a parlor game. This is the furnace of doubt, and he is burning everything in it. His body, the room, the sky outside, the memories of his childhood, the love he felt for others. All of it is thrown into the flames until there is nothing left but the smoke and the echo of the question, is there anything that cannot be doubted? And here, in the absolute zero of certainty, a flicker. A sensation rises from the ashes. It is not a grand truth. It is a quiet, persistent, undeniable activity, the act of doubting itself. To be deceived, you must first exist in order to be deceived. To think this terrible thought, to entertain this monstrous demon, you must be there to do the thinking. The demon could fake the world, but it cannot fake the I that is being fooled. The very fear, the very vertigo of this solitude is the proof of the solitude itself. Cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. But do not rush past this. So often we treat this as a dry philosophical formula. It is anything but. It is the first trembling breath of a newborn consciousness. It is the ghost realizing it is a ghost. And in that realization, it finds not a prison, but a terrifying, infinite freedom. If the world is an illusion, then the I is the only real thing. And if it is the only real thing, then it is utterly free of the world's laws, its judgments, its limitations. Your deepest fear, that you are alone in a dream, is in fact the declaration of your independence. The material world can be taken from you. Your body can be revealed as a mere machine. But the you that witnesses it all, that is the one unassailable citadel. This is the profound secret that the night offers. Your anxiety is not a sign of your brokenness, but a testament to your sovereignty. It is the chill felt by a king who has just discovered the borders of his kingdom have dissolved, and he rules over everything he can see. The responsibility is terrifying. The freedom is absolute. Chapter 5. When the last lie is stripped away, what remains to feel the cold? So you have found yourself, a thinking thing, a shimmering point of awareness, adrift in a sea of potential nothingness. It is a monumental discovery, and yet it is a lonely one. A king in an empty castle, with no subjects, no land to rule, only the silent echoing halls of his own mind. You have saved the thinker, but at the cost of the entire world, the warmth of the sun, the taste of wine, the grip of a hand in yours. All of it is now suspect, potentially just phantoms conjured by the malicious demon. The thinking. I is real, but it is a skeleton of a self. It thinks, it doubts, it understands. But does it feel? Does it love? When the last lie is stripped away, what remains? To feel the cold? Let us return to our solitary figure in his candle-lit study. He has his I am. It is the one diamond that survived the crushing pressure of absolute doubt. But he is a man of flesh and blood, and the memory of warmth is a powerful ghost. He looks at the piece of wax he has been using to seal his letters. It is a simple thing, honey-colored, cool to the touch, fragrant of honeycomb. It has a definite shape, a definite size, a definite texture. He brings it close to the candle flame, and he watches. This is not a hurried experiment. It is a meditation. He watches as the solid form begins to soften at the edges. He watches as it surrenders its shape, becoming a pool of clear liquid. The honey scent vanishes, replaced by the smell of hot wax. The hard, cool object is gone. In its place is something fluid, hot, and utterly different. His senses report a new thing. Every single sensory attribute he used to identify the wax has changed. And yet, he knows it is the same piece of wax. How? His senses did not tell him this. His eyes saw one object vanish and another appear. His mind, his intellect, his understanding, that is what grasped the essence of the wax beneath its fleeting appearances. The wax was never its color, its smell, its texture. Those were just costumes it wore. The wax was simply an extended, flexible, and mutable thing. He knows the wax not through his senses, but through a mental act of inspection, a judgment. And here is the turning of the key. If he can know the essence of a piece of wax more clearly through his mind than through his 5 fallible senses, then what does that say about the entire material world? The world of trees and stars and oceans is not primarily a thing to be seen and touched. It is a thing to be understood. It is a realm of mathematics and geometry. It is res extensa, extended substance. It has laws. It has a reality that is intellectual, not just sensory. The demon could fool his eyes, but could it fool his reason? Could it make 2 + 2 = 5 in a way that his mind would simply accept? Perhaps not. And so, from the cold ashes of the senses, a new world begins to be reconstructed. Not a world of mere appearances, but a world of intelligible truth. The cold you feel on your skin may be an illusion, but the concept of cold, the mathematical principle of heat transfer that your mind grasps, that has a reality of its own. The ghost is not just a thinker of its own existence. It is an understander of a universe written in the language of mathematics. And in that understanding, it finds a world to inhabit once more. a world far more real and reliable than the shifting dream of the senses. Chapter 6. Could a dream of God be the one thing you didn't invent? You have built a bridge back to the world, a world of clear and distinct ideas, of geometric certainty. But a bridge is a lonely structure if it leads to an empty universe. You, the thinking ghost, and the world, the great machine of extended substance. But is that all there is? Two separate realities, one thinking, the other extended, staring at each other across an infinite chasm. It is a clean, logical, and profoundly desolate picture. And it raises a question that hums in the silence. Where did you come from? And where did this intricate mathematical universe come from? The I exists, but it is finite, it is limited, it doubts, it desires, it understands only in part. And in your mind, you find an idea of something infinite, eternal, all-powerful, supremely perfect, the idea of God. Now you could dismiss this. You could say it is a story you were told, a cultural artifact, a comforting fiction you invented to fill the terrifying silence. But let us sit with this idea as Descartes did, not as an article of faith, but as a piece of metaphysical machinery. You are a finite, imperfect being. You make mistakes. You feel fear and longing. Could you, from your own limited resources, have conjured the idea of the infinite? Can limitation conceive of the limitless? Can lack invent perfection? Think of a painter who has only ever seen shades of gray. Could he, from his own imagination, invent the color scarlet? It seems impossible. The idea must have a cause, and the cause must contain at least as much reality as the effect. A small, shaky sculpture can be made by a novice, but the idea of Michelangelo's David could not have sprung from the mind of someone who had never conceived of grandeur, scale, or perfect form. Your idea of perfection, of infinity, is so vast, so overwhelming, that its only possible cause must be a reality that is itself perfect and infinite. The marker cannot have been made by a lesser craftsman than the one whose signature it bears. Therefore, the idea of God in your mind must have been placed there by God Himself. This is not about religion. It is about cause and effect. It is the final necessary piece to seal the world against the demon. For if a perfect, non-deceiving God exists, then He would not equip you with faculties for discerning truth, like your clear and distinct perceptions, and then systematically use them to deceive you. The God of this logic is the guarantee of your reality. He is the anchor that holds your mind and the world together in a relationship of truth. So, could a dream of God be the one thing you didn't invent? The answer that emerges from the cold, rational night is yes. It is the one idea in the gallery of your mind that bears another's signature. It is the guest you did not invite, the whisper in the foundation of your own self that proves you are not the author of this entire story. And with that, the system is complete. The ghost is real, the machine is real, and the love that holds them in concert, the truth that allows them to speak to one another, is real. You are not alone in the dark. You are a finite mind touching the hem of the infinite. And as you drift towards sleep, the boundaries of your self softening, you can release the burden of being the sole author of your reality. The world is not your dream. You are a cherished thought in a much, much larger mind. And in that, there is a peace that passes all understanding, a deep, quiet assurance that allows you to finally and completely let go. Chapter 7. What if the universe forgot to leave a receipt for your existence? There is a silence that comes not from an absence of sound, but from a question so vast it swallows all the noise. A question that once asked can never be fully taken back. It is the silence of a single candle flame in an endless library of unread books. It is the silence that a ghost might feel, not of a person who has died, but of a person who is no longer entirely sure they were ever born. And tonight I want you to consider, what if the universe, in its grand, indifferent accounting, simply forgot to leave a receipt for your existence? What if you are a transaction that was never recorded, a guest whose name was never on the list? To walk into this question is to walk into a 17th century room. Feel the chill of the Dutch winter seeping through the leaded glass of the window panes. See the breath of one man, a solitary figure, mist in the air before a single guttering candle. His name is René Descartes, and he is not a king nor a conqueror, but perhaps something far more radical, a ghost, questioning the very walls of his own haunted house. His haunt is not a castle, but his own mind. His body, a machine of flesh and bone, sits in this chair, feels this cold, turns these pages, but he begins to pull at a thread, a loose strand in the tapestry of reality itself. What if this body is not mine? What if these hands, which write these words, are merely props in a dream from which I cannot wake? What if every sensation, the warmth of the flame, the weight of the wool blanket, the taste of the wine, is nothing but a brilliant, consistent fiction? This is not a paranoid fantasy. It is the ultimate act of intellectual honesty. Descartes decided to doubt, not casually, not as a mental exercise, but with the ruthless precision of a surgeon. He decided to doubt everything that could possibly be doubted. The world outside the window? It could be a magnificent illusion. The fire in the hearth? A clever trick of the senses. The mathematical truths he held so dear? Perhaps they were planted in his mind by a cunning, all-powerful deceiver, a demon of the intellect whose only purpose was to weave a perfect, inescapable dream around him. He systematically dismantled his reality, brick by brick, until he was standing in the rubble of everything he thought he knew. And in that utter, absolute silence, in that 0 point of certainty, he found something. Not a thing with weight or shape, not a triumphant answer, but a simple, undeniable action, the action of doubting, the action of thinking, cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. It was not a receipt from the universe. It was not a birth certificate signed by God. It was a whisper in the void, a whisper that proved there was someone there to hear it. The ghost, in questioning its own existence, had provided the only proof it ever could, the act of the question itself. Your life, your memories, your loves, and your losses. They could, in the most extreme hypothetical, be a magnificent fabrication. But the you that is considering that terrifying possibility, that you cannot be fabricated. That is the anchor in the storm. That is the single, unshakable truth upon which a new world could be built. So, as you lie here in the dark, the weight of your day slowly dissolving, consider your own receipts. The job title, the bank statement, the photograph, the scar. We collect them all, these little slips of paper that we believe prove we were here, that we mattered, that we are real. But what if they were all to vanish? What if the archive burned? The haunting, beautiful truth that Descartes offers is this: you would still be here. The I that feels the panic of that loss. The I that remembers the warmth of the flame, the eye that is listening to the sound of this voice right now. That is the one thing the universe could never take back, because it is the one thing that was never given to you by the outside world. It is the one thing that you are. The ghost is not the absence of a person. The thinking, the questioning, the doubting, that is the person. And perhaps that is the only receipt you will ever need. The first truth is a whisper in an empty room. But a whisper can travel far, can't it? It can echo down the hallways of a life and make you wonder if the ghost is real. What kind of house does it truly haunt? Chapter 8. Is the greatest haunting not of a place, but of a person? We speak of haunted houses, of rooms where the air grows cold and a presence is felt. But what if the most profound, the most inescapable haunting is the one happening within the very vessel you inhabit? Not a spirit trapped in a hallway, but a mind seemingly trapped in a body, a ghost in the machine. And the question is not whether the machine is real, but what it means for the ghost to be its silent, watchful, eternal passenger. Descartes, having found his foothold in the cogito, now faced a problem more intimate and strange than any specter. He had his mind, a thinking thing, clear and distinct. And he had his body, this extended tangible thing that got cold, that felt hunger, that was subject to the laws of physics. How could these two utterly different substances possibly interact? How could a thought, which has no mass, no location, no substance, how could it reach out and move a finger? How could a stubbed toe, a purely physical event, create the private mental experience of pain? This is the ghost in the machine, not a spooky metaphor, but a serious philosophical dilemma that each of us lives every single moment of our lives. You are that ghost. You are the silent witness behind your own eyes. Think of it now as you lie perfectly still. Your body is a magnificent, automated clockwork. Your heart beats without your permission. Your lungs draw breath in the rhythm of the tide. Your cells repair themselves in the dark without any conscious command from you. This is the machine. It has its own logic, its own deep, ancient programming. And then there is you. The you that decides to turn over. The you that listens to the distant sound of a car and weaves it into a memory. The you that can contemplate the stars or mortality or the meaning of a forgotten dream. This you feels like it is in charge. It feels like it pilots the body. But is it? Or is it merely a passenger in the bridge of the skull, watching the machine operate, sometimes giving it a gentle nudge on the wheel, but ultimately along for the ride? This is the quiet, constant haunting of being human. You are not merely in your body like a sailor in a ship. You are fused to it. Your most abstract thought can be altered by a lack of sleep, by a chemical, by a piece of music. Your most profound spiritual experience is filtered through the firing of neurons. The machine speaks to the ghost in a language of hormones and electricity, and the ghost, in its turn, tries to speak back. Through a clenched jaw, a trembling hand, a smile that breaks across the face like dawn. We are a conversation between the eternal and the temporary. The ghost is clean, it is thought, it is will. The machine is messy, it is blood, it is decay. And so the haunting is this, a feeling of slight but perpetual dissonance, a sense that you are both the dancer and the dance, the singer and the song, and yet you can never quite see the score. You look in the mirror and see the machine aging, changing, while the ghost inside feels the same. The same eye that looked out from a child's eyes looks out now. The vessel weathers, but the witness remains. This is not a horror, though it can feel unsettling in the deep hours of the night. It is a mystery. It is the central drama of a human life. To make peace with this haunting is to stop trying to be a pure ghost or a pure machine. It is to accept the beautiful, strange marriage of the two. The warmth you feel is not just a signal in the nerves. It is a feeling the ghost interprets as comfort. The tears you cry are not just salt water. They are the machine's only way of translating a sorrow too vast for the ghost to express alone. We have met the ghost, and we have felt the contours of the machine it inhabits. But this leaves one final tender question. A question not of battle, but of surrender. Not of proving, but of simply being. Chapter 9. When the final argument is made, who stays behind to listen? After the doubt has done its work, after the arguments have been built like intricate castles in the air, after the ghost has mapped every corner of its mechanical home, there comes a moment when the thinking must stop. The candle burns low. The ink is dry. The last page is turned. And in the profound quiet that follows all that furious intellectual activity, what remains? When you have finished explaining the universe to yourself, who is left there to hear the explanation? This is the shore that Descartes' great ship of thought eventually reached. Having proven his own existence through thought, he then used the framework of reason to argue for the existence of God, for the general reliability of the world. He built a new reality from the rubble of the old, stone by logical stone. It was a monumental achievement. But I want you to imagine him, not in the triumph of his conclusion, but in the exhaustion that must have followed. The deep, human exhaustion. The arguments were sound. The proofs were elegant. But had they truly captured the feeling of being? Had they explained the softness of the twilight, the unnameable ache of a beautiful piece of music, the quiet understanding that passes between two people without a single word? No, they could not. The final listener, the one who stays behind after all the arguments are made, is not the thinker. It is the witness. It is the simple, raw awareness that was there before the first doubt was ever formulated. It is the consciousness that simply is. This is the self before the story, before the name, before the biography. It is the silent canvas upon which the magnificent, chaotic, beautiful painting of your life is rendered. Descartes' great gift was to point to it, but his method could never contain it, because it is prior to thought. It is the space in which thoughts arise. As you drift now toward the edges of sleep, you can feel this, can't you? The day's problems, tomorrow's anxieties, the whole intricate narrative of your life. It is all beginning to soften, to recede, like a city seen from a train pulling away into the countryside. The thinker is going to bed, but you are still here. The listener is still listening. The one who feels the coolness of the pillow, the weight of the blanket, the slow, steady rhythm of your own heart. This is not something you need to prove. It is not a conclusion you need to reach. It is your most fundamental state. All the philosophy, all the searching, all the desperate attempts to find a receipt for our existence, they are, in the end, just the long and winding journey back to this, to the simple, undeniable fact of your own presence. The ghost is not a problem to be solved. It is the essence of what you are, and it requires no machine, no argument, no external validation. It only requires this gentle surrender into the quiet. The thinking has served its purpose. It has carried you here, to this moment, to this threshold. Now, you can let it go. The final listener needs no more explanations. It only needs to rest. It only needs to be. So let the words fade. Let the questions dissolve into the dark. And let the one who has been listening all along finally, gently, fall asleep. Close your eyes for a moment and just listen to the silence behind my voice. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of it. A soft, dark fabric. And in that stillness, I want you to imagine a single, simple thing. A candle flame. Not a torch, not a bonfire. Just one candle, its light pooling in a small dark room. This is our starting point. This gentle, trembling light. What if it is the only thing that is truly, undeniably here? And what if that flame is you? Chapter 10. What if the mind is a candle flame, trembling in a room? It can never leave. Think of that flame. It dances. It reacts to unseen drafts, to the mere whisper of a breath from the shadows. It casts light upon the walls, the floor, the chair in the corner. It illuminates a world. It gives form to the things around it. And it believes, with all its fiery heart, that this room is vast, knowable, real. The flame defines itself by the light it casts upon these walls. It believes the chair is solid because it can see it. The air is cool because it makes it shiver. This is the unspoken contract of its existence. I am the light, and this is the world I reveal. But now, a dangerous, a terrifyingly quiet thought. What if the room is not the room? What if the walls are not walls, but merely the farthest reach of the light? What if the chair is not a chair, but just a pattern of shadow and illumination that the flame itself creates in the very act of seeing? The flame can never turn around and look at the space behind its own light. It can never leave its own perspective to see what, if anything, lies beyond the edges of its glow. It is a prisoner of its own radiance. This was the profound and lonely solitude of René Descartes. He wasn't in a dusty study just to think. He was there to stage a rebellion against everything he had ever been told was true. He took the entire furniture of the world, the solid oak of the table, the trust in his own eyes, the very ground beneath his feet, and he decided to treat it all as if it were a magnificent, collective dream. A deception. He wondered if some evil genius, some phantom of cosmic proportions, had woven a tapestry of illusion so perfect, so seamless, that every sensation, every memory, was nothing but a thread in its grand, cruel design. And in that terrifying vacuum, with the entire universe seemingly dissolved into a mist of doubt, one single, irreducible fact remained: the flame itself. The act of doubting, the thinking. Even if the evil genius was deceiving him about everything, for the deception to be happening, he had to exist to be deceived. Cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. It was not a triumphant declaration, not a flag planted on a mountain of certainty. It was a whisper in an infinite empty cathedral. It was the trembling acknowledgement of the candle flame that, while it may not understand the room, it cannot doubt its own fragile, burning reality. This is where we so often stop the story. We have our proof. The self exists, but the deeper, more haunting question lingers in the air around our little flame. If all you can ever truly know is your own light, what then is the world? Is it a real room, Or is it merely the story your light tells itself to explain the shapes on the walls? Is the love you feel a genuine connection to another flame? Or is it just a beautiful warmth you generate within your own solitary glow? Is the sound of the wind outside your window tonight just another part of the narrative, written by a mind that can never leave its own private chamber to check? To sit with this question is not to descend into madness. It is to achieve a certain kind of sober, quiet grace. It is to look at the world, at the face of someone you love, at the beauty of a setting sun, and to hold two truths at once. The first truth: I can never be absolutely certain of what any of this is in itself. The second, and more beautiful truth: my experience of it is real, is precious, is the very substance of my life. The flame may be trapped, but oh, what a magnificent dance it can perform. What stunning illusions it can cast. What profound love it can feel for the other lights it believes are shining in the darkness around it. So as you feel yourself drifting now, feeling the weight of your body on the bed, the coolness of the sheets, the sound of my voice, just wonder. Wonder if all of this, the room, the night, the memory of your day, the anticipation of tomorrow, is not a fact you are observing, but a story you are tenderly, continuously writing. And in that act of writing, you are the author, the narrator, and the only undeniable character. The flame trembles, not from fear, but from the sheer, awesome responsibility of its own light. And in that tremor, you exist. You are. There is a certain peace, isn't there, in having stripped everything away? In having reduced all of reality to a single, shimmering point of consciousness. It is a clean, empty room. But a man cannot live in an empty room for long. The mind, having secured its own existence, immediately looks for a place to sit down. It looks for something solid, something to lean against. It begins, almost instinctively, to refurnish the world. Chapter 11. When the furniture of your world vanishes, what is left to stand upon? Imagine, if you will, that moment after the great doubt. The phantom of the evil genius has been acknowledged, but not banished. You are a thinking thing, a mind, an awareness, adrift in a void of your own making. You have your certainty, but it is the certainty of a castaway on a raft in the middle of a moonless ocean. You are, but you are alone. And the human soul has a deep, biological need for something other than itself to be real. It needs a world to walk in. It needs furniture. This was Descartes' next monumental task. He was a ghost in the machine of his own doubt, and he needed to find a way to invite the world back inside. But he could not just pretend the doubt never happened. He had to be sure. And so, from the bare floor of his own mind, he began to look for something, anything, that felt as solid and undeniable as the cogito itself. He looked at the simple geometric truths, that a triangle has 3 sides, that 2 plus 2 equals 4. These ideas felt clear, distinct. They seemed to be true, regardless of his feelings, regardless of any potential deception. They had a necessity to them, an elegance that felt imported. And this is where he made his most controversial and most human move. He reasoned that within his mind was the idea of perfection, of an infinite, all-powerful, all-knowing being. God. Now where could such a grand idea have come from? A finite, trembling, doubting flame like himself could not have possibly invented the concept of the infinite. He argued that the cause of an idea must have at least as much reality as the idea itself. And so, the idea of a perfect God must have been placed in him by a perfect God. It was the ultimate warranty stamp on reality. With God established as not a deceiver, the world could be trusted again. The signals from the senses, while sometimes confused, were generally reliable. The external world, with its chairs and tables and other people, was invited back into the room. The furniture was returned. But let's pause here, in the quiet of your own mind. Forget the logical gymnastics for a moment. Feel the emotional truth of it. Can you sense the profound relief in this move? The sheer desperate need to believe that the warmth of the sun on your skin is not just a phantom sensation, but a message from a real, external sun. That the hand of another person is truly there, solid and warm in your own. Descartes built a philosophical bridge back to the world, but he built it because the solitude of his own mind was becoming a kind of torture. He was a ghost who, by proving the house was real, could finally stop walking through the walls. Yet the question remains for us, here in the dark. When the comfortable furniture of your own world is taken away, when a belief you cherished shatters, when a relationship ends, when a career vanishes, when the simple, predictable narrative of your life is upended, what is left to stand upon? You are still that thinking thing, that awareness. But the world has gone soft, unreliable. Where do you find your footing? Perhaps the answer is not in rushing to refurnish the room with new, flimsy beliefs. Perhaps it is in learning to stand on the bare floor itself. To find a foundation, not in the external, shifting world, but in the unwavering fact of your own presence within it. The world may come and go. Chairs may appear and vanish. But the floor of your own consciousness, that is always there. It is the one piece of furniture that cannot be taken away, because it is not furniture at all. It is the room itself. And in the deepest of life's storms, when all else is stripped away, that is the one thing you can always, always stand on. And so we find ourselves in a world that is, once more, furnished and real. We have ourself, and we have our world. But a final, subtle chill remains in the air. A question, not of what is real, but of what is alive. We feel the warmth of connection, the heat of passion, the glow of understanding. But what if that warmth is not a communion with something outside of us? What if it is merely the echo of our own lonely fire, bouncing off the cold, silent walls of a universe that does not feel? Chapter 12. Is the warmth you feel just the ghost of a fire that never was? Consider the most profound moment of connection you have ever experienced. A moment where you felt utterly understood by another person. A moment of shared silent awe before a breathtaking landscape. A moment of love so deep it felt like a fundamental force of the universe. In that moment, the separation between you and the world seemed to dissolve. You felt a warmth that was not just emotional, but almost physical, a radiant, shared reality. Now bring in the ghost of Descartes. He sits in the corner of your memory, and he whispers his oldest, most persistent question. How do you know? How can you be certain that the understanding in the other person's eyes is not just a reflection of your own desire to be understood? That the awe you feel in the mountain's presence is not just a projection of your own inner majesty onto a passive, indifferent rock? That the love is not just a brilliant, self-generated story you are telling yourself to stave off the cosmic cold? This is the final and most intimate haunting. It is not the haunting of a place, but of a feeling. It is the suspicion that the most real things in your life, the things that give it meaning, color, and warmth, might be the most phantom-like of all. That you are a single, solitary flame, and all the warmth you have ever felt was just the heat of your own burning, contained within the small, inescapable room of your mind. Descartes tried to solve this too with his God. A good God would not give us such powerful, convincing feelings of connection if they were merely lies. But for the modern mind, that guarantee often feels thin. We are left with the raw data of our experience. The warmth is real to us. The love feels real to us. The connection shatters our solitude for us. So, what are we to do with this ghost of a doubt? Do we let it freeze us? Do we retreat into the cold, hard certainty of our own solitude, believing that to be the only honest way to live? I would offer you a different thought as you lie here on the edge of sleep. Perhaps it doesn't matter. Perhaps the source of the warmth is the wrong question. If you are cold and you light a fire and you feel its warmth on your skin, does it truly matter if the fire is out there or a magnificent self-generated neurological miracle? The warmth is the same. The comfort is just as real. The love you feel, whether it is a perfect mirror of an external reality or the most beautiful story your own soul has ever written, is still your love. It exists. It changes you. It gives you strength, joy, and meaning. In the final accounting, the feeling is the fact. The warmth is the truth. So tonight, as you drift away from the waking world, let go of the need to know for certain. Let the questions themselves soften and blur at the edges. You are a candle flame, yes, but you are a flame that can feel warmth and create warmth and share the appearance of warmth with other flames in the great dark room of existence. And in the end, that might be the only miracle that any of us needs to believe in. The world may be a dream, but it is a dream you are having, and it is filled with a warmth that feels, for all the world, like love. Let that be enough. Let that be everything, and sleep.